Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We're going to do it once again. We're going to talk a lot of Saints, LSU, Tulane, and we got a great guest on the panel tonight. Just one guest, because he can do it all. Sean FAZENDE of Fox 8 Sports joins us, and of course, your phone calls are always welcome at 866-3200. And Sean, we'd like to start the show off as always. Kind of find out what's going on at Fox 8. We've left to like 20 minutes, so you can go through all the shows.
Say, how much time do we have?
You go through all the shows you guys are involved in.
Well, first and foremost, we have our daily news, which is at 4, 5, 9, and 10. Plenty of Saints, LSU, Tulane coverage there. Then we'll start Monday. Monday, we have our Jim Henderson Black and Gold review show with Juan Kincaid, myself, and Jim. On Thursday night, which will be tonight, we have our Saints game plan show, which actually is kind of a preview show of the week that's coming. Fox 8 Football Friday is our high school football show that we introduced last year. Huge success, even more successful this year. That airs Friday at 10:30. Sunday, it's a big day. Fox 8 Live tailgate from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then the final play at 10:30 as well. I think that covers everything. Plus social media, fox8live.com, whatever you want. Look, if you can't find what you want on Fox 8, you're not looking hard.
You're not looking hard.
Exactly.
And of course, the award-winning blog as well. You can find that on
fox8live.com. I actually just posted my 5 takes from the tape column, my tape review of the Saints Cardinals.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I guess you'll take a day off in February.
Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe. Let's get started. Again, Saints go down to Arizona 31-19, a lot closer than what the score was. And, again, Monday morning, everybody's kind of overreacting as it is across the NFL. Overreaction Monday it is. I try to temper what, but at the same time, Sean, there are some glaring needs for this team right now, and it's a little late to try to be able to shore those areas up. Hopefully they'll be able to do it internally. And, of course, they did lose to a quality opponent on the road. I mean, look, let's face it. I mean, a lot of people might have walked into this thing thinking this is the Arizona team of the past. Not so. This is not the Saints team of the past either. As you've mentioned, as we've mentioned, 47% turnover on this roster. Was it, 12 or 14 new players that actually played on Sunday for this team? That's a huge turnover for any roster in the NFL, much less a team that ultimately in the past has barely been, 2 players here, 3 players there, but pretty much the same nucleus that we've seen throughout the last decade.
Yeah, and I think that storyline has really kind of filtered itself or kind of leaked itself into their approach to these games. I mean, that was a very safe game plan, if you will. That was a very, I don't want to use the word conservative, but it was very much a patient game plan. And it was funny because I ran into a bunch of Saints fans at the airport. I was getting tweeted, from Saints fans as you get callers. I was expecting a bigger overreaction from the fan base. I think they got it. This team is not the finished product. Who knows what the finished product will be, but it's not right now. And Arizona is a contender. And I gotta say, Arizona, that's much different than the first time I was there back in 2010. That place was loud. I think they kind of feel it. The headlines in the paper that morning were, ready for the hat trick, 3 in a row, looking for their 3rd consecutive winning season. Is this the year they put it all together with the Super Bowl? So clearly, it's a Super Bowl contender, and that's what their expectation is. But it was funny to see the preseason storylines literally showed up right away in their first regular season game with the wide receiver issue and the lack of a pass rush. So all these things kind of manifested itself in game 1. It's the only game we have so far, so we tend to overreact because it's the only one we can dig into. But I think overall, I was more encouraged when I watched that game over again than I expected to be. But overall, there's some issues you have to address. Yeah,
you mentioned, and again, the two glaring needs for this team right now, the 2 problems that we saw during the preseason, it came into the regular season as well. Again, red zone. We're going to get into that, and a lack of a pass rush. But anytime you have a turnover like this on a roster, you should expect some growing pains here. And we've said all along, I think Saints fans have to be patient. You have to take this quarter by quarter.
It is, yeah.
And literally, I mean, I know a lot of times you do that, but maybe Saints fans look a little bit ahead. It's the second half of the season where we're going to find out what kind of team this is.
Yeah, and health will play a big role in that as
Agreed.
well. If they can get healthier towards the the second quarter to the second half of the season, if you realistically, if you were not a Cardinals or Saints fan, and you just looked at these two rosters and you thought to yourself, this could get ugly for the Saints, and it did.
Yes.
So in that regard, I am encouraged, but at the same time, you still have that feeling of, I don't know who this team is yet. And I don't think the Saints know.
Yes.
And I think you kind of sense that coming from the organization right now with the way they're kind of approaching things. So it's just one of those things you have to kind of be patient and feel this thing out and see where it goes.
Well, rather than, again, slowly rebuilding the team over the last 4 to 5 years, they haven't been able to do it. They've made bad decisions when it's come to signing free agents. In some cases, we're thinking there's no way they can sign this big-time free agent. Boom, they sign the big-time free agent. But unfortunately, they don't pan out. The ability to try to keep your guys in-house, which a lot of great teams do, but giving contracts to individuals who honestly either didn't deserve it or haven't played up to those contracts have hurt them. And the bad drafts, which we've discussed on this program and my radio show ad nauseum. One player per draft since 2007, making an impact on this team. And you can't win like that consistently because ultimately you want to be adding 2, 3, 4 pieces every year, not add, again, a 47% turnover in your roster in one season.
If you steadily add those players in each draft, which is where you get it, you're not left with a 47% turnover. And that's what they're dealing with right now. It's almost like Sean Payton's rookie season all over again. I've said that time and time again. This is like 06 all over again. And what happened in 06? They got off to that fast start, and the momentum kind of carried them through, and they kind of felt that thing out and was able to kind of catch some good karma, catch some good attitude, and all of a sudden they rode it all the way to the NFC Championship. It could happen, but it's just not there yet. So I think right now they're kind of reaping what they sow a little bit. The last 3 drafts have been horrible. 2013 wasn't terrible, but you lose players from 12 and 14, which was terrible. So right now you're left with this, and this is what it is. You're not getting that much better or worse. You just got to let this team grow together and see what happens.
Well, that's the only hope you have.
And this locker room is better. Okay, it's a better group of guys.
Well, you're the one that pointed us out last year.
I will say it time and time. It's a much more professional group of guys that want to get better. It's just a matter of will they do it.
866-3200 is the phone number. Sean Fazenda, Fox 8 Sports with us. To Homa and Greg. Greg, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Yeah, my question is that the lack of defensive production, I guess, is it due to coaching, scheme, or players? I mean, it looked like a lot of those players were just so much out of position, and I'll hang up and listen.
Greg, thank you. Sean, when you went back and looked at the tape, what did you see?
I didn't see any massive, egregious coaching errors. I thought the secondary played very well considering the injuries and the newcomers. Delvin Breaux and Damian Swan's both their first NFL game ever, and I thought they played well. The front four, I think you lack a playmaker. I thought Cam Jordan had a few good snaps. Had he got that interception where he batted down the pass, he had another batted pass, he had a couple of pressures. But I think that front end, I'll say it again, I don't know that the personnel is there to be a great pass rushing team. You have to figure out a way, though, whether it be a rotation, whether it be situational, to get that up to at least average or somewhat decent. And right now, you don't have it.
Sean, that's the mind-boggling thing about this because, again, you got a situation where Akeem Hicks is in a contract year. Normally, you're going to get a great season out of a player that's in a contract year. John Jenkins, all these guys in the offseason lost weight. They were dedicated to their craft. You expected these guys to come in and be a much more formidable defensive line that could rush the passer. The addition of Kevin Williams to stuff that middle. And you really kind of expected more out of this first team than what you're getting. Right now, the only guy that looks like he's putting any kind of pressure, and it's very difficult for one guy to do it, is Cam Jordan. And, again, short of going out and the manufacturing pressure, it might be tough for this team going forward, but then there's a catch-22 there. You manufacture pressure with young players, all of a sudden guys are out of position, they're blowing their assignments, and big plays happen. So there's got to be a little bit of a balance there.
That's it. And, again, this is what you have. You have to figure out a way to mix and match and make it work. And I thought it could have went a lot worse. I mean, I thought after that first drive, you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, what is happening with this team right now? It's going to be another long season. But they kind of regrouped in a tough environment and was able to do so. I think Haoli Kikaha is a guy that shows some promise. He had a couple of good snaps. I will say this, though. When he's playing against the run, he is really getting manhandled by bigger offensive line. But when he's rushing the passer, he's actually doing quite well. Cam Jordan had a few good snaps. Bobby Richardson had a couple good snaps. I just think at this point, this is what you have, and you have to figure out a combination or a rotation. And hopefully you get some help from your offense as well to where you're not depending on this all the time.
And you get, again, in that defensive backfield, you get your starters back because that'll allow you to go at least one-on-one on the outside. You can have a guy like Bird that if he ever gets healthy has the ability to be able to roam back there. And then you're able to maybe utilize some of these exotic looks to either confuse the quarterback, like you're going to see with Jameis Winston this weekend, or to put added pressure.
True, but I will say, even with a healthy secondary, look, that play, even with the Legion of Boom, that first touchdown, the Legion of Boom's not guarding a player for 8 seconds.
Agreed.
It's not happening. So you have the Seattle Seahawks defense, their front four is not known as a great pass rushing team, but they're good. And with that secondary, it works. That's what the Saints have to do. They have to get it up to where you're at least providing some sort of pressure, if not sacks, sometime during the game.
866-3200. Let's go back to the phone lines. Sean Fazende is our guest. Willie is uptown. Willie, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Willie.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Willie?
I got two comments first. Should we accept the fact that we, the Saints, are no longer that 2019? Because we always refer to them and try to go back to that 2019. And second, can we also accept that the Arizona Cardinals are better than the Saints? They were 7-0 going into before Carson Palmer got hurt. So I see it as a win that they kept it as close as they did. That's all I got.
Willie, thank you.
That's a very realistic comment.
I
really
agree
do.
with 100%.
I mean, it's not 2009. Everyone in the organization knows right now. And Arizona, I'll say it again, that might be the best team in the NFC West. Maybe the toughest division in football. That's a Super Bowl contender. So it was surprising. A lot of Willie from Uptown. There was a lot of those Willie from Uptowns, like at the airports, on Twitter. It was a pretty even keel response to a game that could have gotten a lot worse.
Well, and look, I think he's right on target. I think that the quicker the Saints fans realize that this is not the team of 09, it's not the team of 13. You go,
11.
11. I mean, it is a 47% turnover in the roster and young players. I mean, in the past, you have a turnover in the roster, you're bringing in seasoned veterans. You're not doing that, and the veterans you have brought in, they're not playing. No. You know, Ellerby's out. Obviously, you look at Bird, who's still out. You look at the situation now, Raphael Bush going out, that hurts them as well. So some young players really have to emerge for this team to contend down the line. And I just think, again, take it the season one quarter at a time and hope you can get to that back end of the season and you're still in contention.
But true. But they have to figure out a way to at least split this quarter. Because if you really look at the track record of Sean Payton, they cannot dig themselves out of early holes. It just doesn't happen. The biggest hole they've ever dug themselves out of is 0-1, quite frankly, in 2011. So they have to figure out a way to this is a very winnable game coming up. You have Carolina, which is another winnable game, but it is on the road.
Yes.
Dallas is a good team, a very good team, but they won't have Des Bryant. So I don't want to look too far ahead, but they have to really – Drew Brees said it. 0-2 is not an option. I completely agree with him.
Well, in order for them to do that, Sean, and we'll go back to the phone lines in a moment, they got to solve the red zone problem.
Oh, yeah.
And it's hard to solve the red zone problem when you don't have playmakers. And I think – I don't think it's an overreaction right now to look at the wide receiving core and if you're Drew Brees, say, okay, who's my guy? I mean, we saw Patrick Peterson really shut down Brandon Cooks last week. I don't think that obviously you're going to see a Patrick Peterson every week, but what you will see is teams scheme now to take him out of the game. Marcus Colston is not the Marcus Colston of old. And, you're going to have to utilize him in spots. Brees tried to go to him down the stretch, when he needed somebody to catch that football to move the chains, and let's face it, he didn't do it. You got a situation now where Willie Snead looks like he could be a player, but again, he's got to be able to get the trust of Brees and get open, and Brandon Coleman is an enigma. We don't know who he is yet, so much so that I was talking to my director before the show, and think back in your mind's eye. Joe Morgan has been an afterthought on this team for the last couple years. Joe Morgan, you can take him or leave him. This team needed Joe Morgan. Okay, they needed a guy that with speed on the outside that could block. And that kind of tells you how far this team has fallen in terms of the level of playmakers that they have on the team when you've got to go out and Joe Morgan is somehow the panacea for what ails this team.
Yeah, and you touched on a couple things. Let me just first start with the red zone. I don't want to get too numbersy with you because I broke it down the tape. They had 10 red zone plays, 8 passes, 2 runs. They didn't have a single play in the red zone that was goal to go. Okay, so that was kind of the why did they only throw 1 pass to the goal line? Quite frankly, they weren't that close to the goal line, and a lot of times if they would have gotten close to, say, the 6 or the 5 or the 4, you could throw a fade to maybe a Brandon Coleman. Didn't necessarily have that situation. Coach Payton talked after the game, what could I have done better as a play caller? I need to do better. And what I watched, what I saw, I'm not a play caller, but it looked to me that the Cardinals were dropping 7 and 8 guys in coverage. That's 7 or 8 defenders with 5 receivers at the absolute most. You can do the math. What would have worked in that situation was more runs out of passing situation, out of passing formations, out of that 11 personnel. So I think that's something you can look forward to or look as a possible adjustment. You mentioned Joe Morgan, the ability to stretch the field. I don't know that I've ever seen not just the inability to get downfield, the inability to try to get downfield. Every route was close to the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
Everything was jammed in. And if you have Joe Morgan, he can be your Robert Meacham who would run 30 and 40-yard routes knowing he wasn't going to get the ball, because what happens? It clears out that intermediate area, which is really the area Drew Brees is really deadly at. It has to be opened up.
And an area I think Brandon Cooks can flourish in.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's out of position when you put him on the outside. I think he's more of a guy you put him in the slot, you know, but we'll see what happens going forward. And, of course, I also, and we're going to go to the phone lines next, I also look at that offensive line that I think played very well. And I think at times Brees had more time than he really felt he had. And I think when he goes back and looks at the tape, maybe he'll trust that offensive line a little bit more, and that'll give these guys a little bit more chance to get open because, you know, I watched you and Jim the other night, and one of the things you and Jim Henderson were talking about was the lack of separation. You know, it's hard to see it on the TV copy, but you guys were in the stadium, and you could clearly see there was not a lot of separation with the wide receivers.
And it was clear that they had it embedded in their head, patient, check down, you know, stay short, because if you really look at it, the reads were downfield, and it was very quick back short. And there was 15 catches by a running back or a fullback. 9 were designed, 6 were by check down. So, you know, that's just kind of what you find from the film. But I think it's a glaring need, and I don't understand why Joe Morgan was even off the team to begin with. I mean, he was clearly good enough to make the roster. I don't understand what the deal was with keeping 4 wide receivers. So hopefully that changes. Hopefully they learn their lesson, and we'll see what happens this Sunday.
To Wallace in New Orleans. Wallace, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for calling tonight, Wallace. Wallace, are you with us?
How you doing, my man?
What's happening, Wallace?
How y'all doing today?
Doing great.
I got a question. Is there anybody out there, a pass rusher the Saints can look at? Because really, that's all we need, somebody that can pass rush.
No.
Wallace, thanks for the phone call. I think the short answer is no.
I don't want to be blunt, but I mean, if they're good enough to rush the passer, a very coveted skill set in the NFL right now, they are on a roster, or they're damaged goods at this point.
Yeah, agreed. Tom is in Metairie. Tom, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hey, guys,
Tom.
how you doing?
How you doing?
Listen, I can't see the whole field on TV. My question is, are the receivers getting open? It seemed like Brees had a lot more time this game, but he's looking around, and no one to throw to. Yeah. I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Thanks, Tom. Go ahead.
No, they didn't get much separation. It's that simple. And I'll go back to my original point. There wasn't a whole lot of attempts to stretch the field. And even, you know, when he had guys open, the catch and the defender is right there. So it was simply that. Phoenix's or Arizona's secondary was better than the Saints wide receivers. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's something that, honestly, you look at the history of this team under Payton, even though they have not been big names, that doesn't happen much. You know, even if guys maybe were physically not as good as the team across from them, they had the ability to get open, all right, to give openings, windows in which Brees could hit them and again, make plays.
The best separation play, quite frankly, was Willie Snead's play. That route he ran was beautiful. He broke a tackle and he had 63 yards. So all those things are it's early, and they'll feel that out, and hopefully you kind of log that in your memory bank, and they'll go back to it.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to hold up because he looks like a bright spot right now. He looks, again, obviously he's a guy that can catch the football, but he looks like a guy that's got some pretty good speed after the catch, something that, again, Lance Moore had, but maybe not as much as maybe Snead has right now.
Yeah, and look, they both run extremely clean routes to where you can manufacture separation just by your footwork on a route. Willie Snead has that. You can tell he's a coach's son.
The screen game this week used a lot to be able to kind of counteract the pass rush of the Arizona Cardinals. One of the things I talked about on Monday morning was that, you know what, you can't continue to go that well. Even if C.J. Spiller's back, you're going to have to be able to spread the ball around. I understand why they did it, but, I mean, at one point it looked like it was the only offensive play that was working.
You got to wonder if you go through and you're Sean Payton and you're thinking, what's going to work? What's going to work? They have never seen Mark Ingram and Kyrie Robinson in the screen game, and maybe you can catch fire. And to his credit, it worked for a bit. But I don't think your passing game cannot be the screen game.
Right.
So it was a good game plan, and I don't think they wanted to go 15 times to a running back or a fullback. But at some point, these wide receivers are going to have to step up and make plays. Or they have to find somebody that can do it, which who knows is available to do that.
We've talked about it a couple times tonight. The offensive line really played well. A lot of worries about Lolito, whether he was going to be able to hold up. I will say one thing, the bread and butter for this team is that screen pass, is the ability for the guards to be able to get out, whether it's blocking on a running play or on a passing play. Lolito looked athletic. He looked physical. I know Jari Evans, again, still he looks like, again, he's an older veteran, but was able to at least hold up.
He held his own.
He really did hold his own.
Yeah, he wasn't. There were a couple plays he got beat, but I thought overall he played well.
And you got to give Max Unger a lot of credit. Again, him coming in has solidified the middle of the offensive line, which again helps Breeze because he's got to have that ability to be able to step up and throw the ball. He's got to have that open window to do that, and we saw that consistently on Sunday. And look, I still think Zach Strief at this age is playing very, very well. Pete came in the tackle eligible plays, and when I watched him and honed in on him, he looked like he was doing a decent job. And Armstead, if he continues on this path, he's going to be in the Pro Bowl before it's all said and done. He's going to be an All-Pro
before it's all said and done. It's funny though, if you watch the show Monday night. Go read a Seattle paper right now. The whole talk is no offensive line.
Yes.
Go read the Saints papers right now. The whole talk is no red zone. It's like that Jimmy Graham trade. I mean, it took literally one game for it to show its face.
Yeah, it did. But it's not just Jimmy Graham. Everybody seems to forget about Kenny Stills as well.
Yeah.
That's kind of been an afterthought now about the loss of weapons. But you got to put that squarely on the coaching staff right now. And again.
That was the one move I just thought maybe it just won too much.
Well, and look, if you're going to do something like that, Sean, you got to have a plan.
Right.
You got to have a. Okay, we're moving Jimmy Graham, but this is what we're going to do. This is our backup plan. But you move Stills and Graham, and your backup plan is Coleman and Snead.
Yeah.
I mean that. Again. They may end up being great players before it's all said and done.
I think they kind of lucked into Snead a little bit. I don't think he was even part of the plan.
He wasn't even part of the plan, right? So, I mean, imagine if he's not here right now, what you're looking at.
Right.
Lisa is in Lockport. Lisa, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Lisa.
Okay, what's not going so well?
Lisa, you're on the air. Okay, let's put her on hold. Let's come back to Lisa. Again, 866-3200 is the phone number. Overall, got to say Drew Brees played pretty well.
Look, again, another preseason storyline that manifested itself in Week 1. Drew Brees, that's the thing I have hope in. That's the one thing I think. You still have an elite quarterback still in the prime of his career, which is why it shocked me when they decided to take the ball out of his hands on 4th and 6 at their own 7-yard line. So Drew Brees played incredibly well. He made good decisions. The interception was a tip ball, wasn't his fault. He executed the game plan, and Drew Brees is Saints fans that have been on him in years past need to probably lay off this year because he's number one in terms of their playmakers.
And he's healthy. He's healthy.
Big difference.
I mean, a real big difference. But again, a lot of that brought on the Saints bring that on themselves. Okay, they want to be stealth, cloak and dagger on injuries, and again, because of that, people look at fans. They look at players that are not performing well, and immediately they're not thinking, "Oh, this guy's injured." They're thinking this guy is over the hill or he's not playing well. If you a little bit of honesty with what's going on with the fan base or the media, then you know what? You take a step back and go, you know what? This guy's playing through these injuries. Kudos to him. Instead, it's this guy's a dog.
And short of a shoulder again.
Yeah.
I don't know if with the way Drew Brees, if you really watch the way he drops back and he turns, an oblique problem. that's probably the second worst injury he can have to kind of overcome.
Well, again, it's all about torque.
Yes, and that's where he generates that power.
And we saw it last year. And then that didn't help. Every time you turned around, the guy was running for his life.
Yeah.
I mean, took more hits last year than I think I've ever seen him take. Let's try to grab these phone calls before we go to break. Let's try Lisa in Lockport once again. Lisa, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hi.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I missed.
No problem. We're cool.
I just want to know, I agree with Sean Payton for not going for it on the 4th and 6th.
Yes.
My husband and I are arguing right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Thank you for the phone call. I think I have a different take than you.
Bad call.
You thought it was a bad call.
Bad call.
And you got the numbers to back it up.
I got the numbers to back it up.
Go ahead.
Look, let's say, okay, I'll try to make this quick. They punt the ball, okay? Arizona gets the ball. It's like 1:49 left at the 43-yard line, okay? They have 2 timeouts. So realistically, Arizona can burn about 50 to 55 seconds. If they don't gain a yard, which is unlikely, they're punting the ball from the 43, okay? The punter's average that day was 39 yards, okay? So if he hits his average, the Saints are getting the ball back with no timeouts at their 18-yard line. There's a chance he can punt it deep and it goes in the end zone and you get it out to the 20. Maybe you get a return. But the most likely scenario is that. So you traded 2 timeouts and took the ball out of Drew Brees' hands for 11 yards of field position. I'm sorry. It's not even a debate here. Right. That's a bad call.
Well, you throw the numbers out there, it makes me sway toward what you're saying. But initially, my thought was, yeah, you're on the 7-yard line, punt the ball away, and hope this defense can hold, and you get the ball back. And again, Brees maybe has a chance to be able to drive the team down the field. Of course, it didn't happen that way, but the numbers don't lie at the end of the day. But it is a controversial call.
It is, and
what was interesting about it is it was not a Sean Payton type situation.
If he's gonna make a mistake, I'm going for it. If I'm making a mistake fast, I'll deal with it later.
And almost like the game plan was tentative as well. You look at the screen passes. A lot of when you turned around, you thought to yourself, my gosh, they ran the football a lot, but they really didn't.
No, they had a lot of those checkdowns.
It was the screens and as an extension of the running game. And that's something I think they're going to have to really dedicate themselves to going forward with the lack of playmakers.
That's it.
At the wide receiver position. They've got, probably the deepest part of this team right now is the running back position.
No doubt.
And they're going to have to utilize those running backs.
And an offensive line that can really block on screen passes as well and running game as well. So, yeah, I would think Sean Payton may not want to say it, but that's going to be the structure, and that's going to be the kind of the focal point of this offense at some point.
To the North Shore in Ponchatoula for Brian. Brian, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Brian.
Hey, how y'all doing, fellas?
Doing great.
I was been watching these Tulane games, and to me, I don't see they can't pick up a blitz. I think the offensive line isn't too good, and I don't see them maybe even going to a bowl game. I know they got high hopes, but there's no protection on the offensive line picking up the blitz. I mean, is that coaching or Kenny Lee looks good, but he's just not getting the time to throw the ball down the field. And I think Devin Breaux's going to be an awesome wide receiver for him.
Yeah, no, he's going to be a good
one. I'm just going to hang up and listen.
Thank you, Brian. Well, I got my notes here, and again, so this is what I was taking down during the game. Again, the 2 quality opponents when you come from the ACC. But this season, which was looked at as a possible bowl season, could possibly be historically bad for this team if they don't turn it around quickly. Now, again, they stepped down in class against Maine this week. We'll see what happens. But, Sean, can't get the special teams together. The offense now.
That is cross-coaching staffs, by the way.
Which is amazing. Look, how you can't get someone that can kick a field goal or catch a punt. I don't know. Catch a snap from a punter that catches a snap. I don't get it. And for a team like that needs every advantage that it can get, it really hurts them. And you look at where they are right now. I had high hopes for this team, and the Tulane fans I talk to right now, they're pointing squarely at Curtis Johnson, and the seat is getting very, very hot.
Yeah, I would think so. And even if he manages to survive this, if they can get this thing back on track, I would think he's going to have to take a real close look at his coaching staff right now. They're just not getting the job done. And I've said this a couple times. What stood out to me in this whole process, getting kind of the Tulane following them from the recruiting class to practice to now playing, is the numbers that they brought in their recruiting class was only 17 and how thin they were along the offensive line in terms of depth. That's always going to be a problem for them, especially in this conference, and man, did it manifest itself in this game against Georgia Tech. So I think that's what you're dealing with. And look, this is a much tougher conference. Georgia Tech, is a very good team. I mean, they beat Georgia last year.
Yeah.
This is a very good team,
yes.
and I was not expecting 65-10. I mean, 65 points was unbelievable.
I mean, come on, that again.
An option team scoring 65 points.
Yeah, I mean, look, and it's every phase of the game. I feel sorry for the defense, okay? Because the defense can't do it all by themselves, and they need a little help from, especially the special teams. Which, again, I wrote my notes during the game. They're program killers. I mean, not just team killers or season killers. Program killers is what the special teams are right now. So, you know, Tulane had a lot of high hopes, but right now, man, they got to try to get past Maine this weekend. And
they need a win. They need to feel good about themselves and
really
kind
bad.
of get some good mojo in that locker room right now.
One more call before we go to break to Kenner and Ed. Ed, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Ed.
Hey, guys. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
I was just funny. I was just thinking about Curtis Johnson myself. It seems like since he's left, our receivers is not really quite as good as they used to be. Do you think that's a problem? Because I know we lost one receiver coach and we had another one come in. And, you know, we sure could use him over here, Tulane. God bless y'all. Guys, I'll listen. I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you, Ed. You know,
it's a good point. I thought Henry Ellard was just not nearly didn't have the same impact that Curtis Johnson had. I'm willing to give is it John Morton a little bit more leeway. I think right now it's a lack of talent. Quite frankly, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's a lack of talent.
They're not going out there running routes.
It's just it is what it is.
They just don't have the talent at the wide receiver position right now. And you know, again, it's mind-boggling when you know you're in the twilight of a Hall of Fame quarterback's career to not give him the weapons he needs going forward. Now, the hope is these guys, much like we're going to talk about the defense a little bit later on, these guys will grow up. We'll start to see Coleman be more consistent. We'll see Willie Snead get more opportunities. We'll see Marcus Colston maybe.
I'm worried about him, man. I'm just worried about the length of the season. And you know, he started off the first game of the season last year bad, and it kind of carried over to like week 10. And they need him to be productive this year.
He's got to be.
Yes.
I mean, they're counting on him. I just wouldn't send him over the middle anymore. I just don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to catch the ball over the middle. I think you're going to have to roll him in the sideline routes. Let him catch it on the sideline, get out of bounds. I just think he's taken enough hits in his career, and he's at the point where, you know what, I don't want to say he's playing out the string, but he understands this is probably the last year. The Saints couldn't really do anything with him. He took a pay cut, but yet still the cap number to cut him would have been too high. And then, look, they kind of learned a lesson. They needed someone with all these young receivers in that meeting room to be able to, again, disseminate information, to teach them the Peyton way, to show them how to be professionals. So there's a role here on this team, but it probably isn't the number one receiver anymore.
Well, look, all you got to do is turn on the tape and see no one views him as that, because Arizona had number 10 circled. They said, we are not letting number 10 beat us. Brandon Cooks is that guy, even if they don't want to admit it. He is their number one receiver. Patrick Peterson on him all game. And there was a couple times in the red zone where safeties are literally jumping his first step on a route. I mean, it was that much to the point where they were not going to let Brandon Cooks beat him. So he's going to get a lot of that this year.
Yes.
So they've got to figure out a way to combat that.
Right. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE with our live broadcast at 6 p.m. You can catch us on Friday nights, 9 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television at the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette markets, and right back here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports is our guest tonight. My name is Eric Asher. I'm your host. 866-3200 is the phone number. We'll be right back after these quick messages from our underwriters. Don't go anywhere.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
My life is full of statistics. Thing is, I could have dropped out of school and become one myself, but I didn't, because I had people that believed in me. Here's another statistic. 7,000 students drop out every school day. That's one every 26 seconds. It's time that students know that we believe in them.
Inspire a student and share your message of support at boostup.org.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. 866-3200 is the phone number. Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports, with us tonight. Just one person on the panel. He's handling it like a champ. Eric Asher with you. Let's head back to the phone lines. Tremont is in New Orleans. Tremont, thanks for holding through the break. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Hello.
Hey, Tremont.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for calling.
I was just saying, like, we got into the red zone, like, maybe, 5 times, and we only scored once. Like, don't you think that's, like, they try to say is the defense. The defense gave us the ball the whole game, but we couldn't score. I'm just, what's y'all take on that?
Tremont, thank you for the phone call. Sean?
It's that simple. This defense is not going to be good enough to where an offense that gets that many chances to score, if they don't cash those things into touchdowns, this defense is not good enough to hold up and constantly give new chances. But I thought the defense, I agree. I thought they played well enough to win at times.
I did too. I really did. I don't think defense is the problem. But the problem is lack of playmakers.
That's it.
I mean, it is. So again, you have lack of playmakers, you got to scheme. In the past, Sean Payton has been able to scheme this team into getting guys open. We didn't see a lot of that in week 1. Maybe it's a byproduct of having so many young players, but you know what? You don't have young players at that tight end position. You got 2 guys that have been around for a couple of years. And at the running back position, again, you don't have C.J. Spiller. I was surprised Marcus Murphy didn't see more time in the backfield.
And I was surprised Josh Hill wasn't targeted either in the red zone as well. Both of those guys, I would expect both of those guys, their snap count to pick up here in the next couple games. Look, I keep going back to it, but this is very much week to week. We got to see what we have. I don't know this team completely yet and see where it goes.
Right. Again, take it quarter at a time. That's all you can do. And be patient because, again, this could go one of 2 ways. They could really catch fire in the second half of the season, and everybody's going to be out there second lining, having a great time and looking for playoffs, or they could be looking for a top 10 pick. It could go either way because of the turnover in the roster. To Slidell and Glenn. Glenn, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Glenn.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I have a question about our top pick, Andres Pete. I'm wondering what you guys think about the pick. Based on last year, we were all saying that the window of opportunity with Drew Brees here is rapidly closing. Why would they pick someone who's going to sit on the bench for a whole year when you could have used that pick to pick maybe a top-notch receiver or somebody on defense that would help them? I'll hang up and listen.
Hey, Glenn, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. I think the Saints got caught. I think they wanted to move up, they obviously maybe it was too rich for what they wanted. I think they wanted to move back. They didn't think they could get the value that they wanted, and so they looked at a player that they felt like, you know what, looking down the line, that maybe Zach Street might be a little too expensive to keep within the next couple of years, and they're grooming him obviously to be able to take his spot, but. There were wide receivers on the board there. There were defenders on the board there, right? Okay, that obviously could have came in and helped this team. But in his defense, he's played fairly well.
Yeah, and for that role. Now, you want your first-round pick to have a much more of an impact, but he got, I think, 5 or 6 snaps in that game. He didn't get beat, so that's always a win. But the true impact player is the guy they got in the Jimmy Graham trade. It's been Stephon Anthony. I think he has a chance to be an impact player. I thought he had a very good game. He had a couple mistakes, but I thought he played very well in the Arizona game. You would like Andres Peak to be more of an instant contributor. It's just not the case, and I think it was that way when they drafted him. It was a classic highest-graded player left on the board.
And in the Saints' defense, I will say this. Remember last year when the tackles got injured? Man, I tell you what, Brees was running for his life. I mean, there's a reason why Bryce Harris is with the Atlanta Falcons right now. They had no more faith in Bryce Harris. They realized when they got to the third tackle, they were literally again risking Drew Brees' life. So they felt like they had to upgrade that position. Now, do you do it with your first-round pick? Probably not. Okay, especially when you need other things. But again, I think they just got caught in the draft. That's my opinion. They got caught in the draft.
They got caught and they kind of fell back to, well, this is our highest graded guy. Let's get him.
This is where we're going. But I do agree, and I want to go in that direction now. The young players on defense. I think immediately we saw this during the preseason: athleticism, speed, and again for a first game, you went down the line. Kakaha, Anthony Swan, Richardson, Bro. I thought all those guys played pretty well.
Look. If I'm given a game ball, I thought Damian Swan, in terms of what I expected versus what I got or what I saw, I thought he really played well. He was fearless with some very good, very fast wide receivers. That play he made on that third down where he recovered and knocked the ball out of, I believe it was John Brown's hand. That's an NFL cornerback great play. Kikaha had some good snaps. Like I said, I think they're going to have to watch him in terms of running situations because I just don't know that he's going to hold up, at least along the defensive line. He's going to have to be a linebacker to make an impact in that regard. Stephon Anthony played well. Delvin Breaux, I know people are going to look at the 4 penalties, but I kind of like those penalties, and not every one was egregious. There was a couple. He's just got to get his hands right. I think he'll be fine. And I didn't realize he is a big guy. I mean, he's probably listed at 6'1", 6'2", and he can get physical with these wide receivers. I think ultimately that's what they want, and they'll take that right now as the learning curve goes.
Yeah, and Richardson as well. If you looked at Richardson,
he had a couple good snaps as well.
He did. So, I mean, again, those are some guys that are going to be the nucleus of this defense going forward. Now, it's funny we're saying that because just a couple years ago, we were talking about Jenkins, also Hicks and was it Gillette and Cam Jordan as being those guys. Those guys, they've hit a ceiling right now, it looks like a little bit. So we'll see what goes on there. But I thought, I thought I was pleasantly surprised. I do believe that, again, we have to be patient with them because they're going to make some mistakes. There's going to be some blown assignments. You look at some of those penalties, again, just kind of a victim of again, youthful mistakes by guys that have not played an NFL game. But overall, I thought they held up well.
I thought they did their part. They got a turnover. They could have had 4. They ended up with 1, gave the Saints back the ball with great field position, could have really changed the momentum of the game. I thought we thought this was going to be the 31st ranked defense from a year ago. I thought that looked like, quite frankly, a solid middle of the pack defense.
Without Ellerbe, without Bird, without Keenan Lewis. And now, again, without Bush.
Right.
Okay, so you're looking at guys that again, you were counting on to be a big part of this defense.
There were some signs of optimism, and I think we can all kind of realistically look at that and say, okay, there's a chance for growth here. We just don't know if it's going to come.
Sean, the entire press corps, the entire fan base, again, just losing their patience with the Jarvis Bird situation. You know, if there was ever a time that a guy needed to speed up the rehab just a little bit, it's now. When you're bringing Kenny Phillips off the street, who hadn't played in 2 years in the NFL, and he's going to be your starting safety, and Jamarcus Sanford is the other guy, and you had to bring him off the street last year, again, you're trying to piecemeal that defensive backfield. The $9 million man's got to get on the field.
It's got to. And I would love to inject Coach Payton with some truth serum and see how he really feels about Jarvis Bird and his rehab. I did the math. This is assuming the injury happened right before training camp, which who knows when it actually happened.
Yes.
He's been out 8 weeks.
For
8 weeks.
For a meniscus.
Yes.
A meniscus. I mean, again, look, there are a lot of rumors out there. I'm not even going to broach those rumors right now because we don't have second sources on them. But I will say this. Something has to give sooner or later with this. You know, it's amazing. I expect to see, at this point, maybe Keenan Lewis back before I see Bird.
Keenan Lewis is a warrior, and he's going to get back as soon as he's available to get back. I would expect Keenan Lewis back. You know, it was that 4 to 6, 4 to 7 week time frame. He may get back. He is a warrior and a competitor. He wants to get back out there in the field.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Saints need Jarvis Bird right now. And look, don't think that Jarvis Bird's going to come in here in the world. He's going to set the world on fire because there's an acclimation to this defense. There's going to be acclimation again to playing with his teammates. And also, he really hasn't had a legitimate, I mean, he played in 4 games last year, but to say he's had a legitimate impact on the team in now almost 2 seasons.
Exactly. So even when he comes back, how soon is he ready to be what they paid him to be, which is the impact playmaker that makes plays and creates turnovers?
Which, again, outside of the off-the-field stuff, what we're hoping for is the second coming of Darren Sharper.
That's it.
No doubt. John is in Kenner. John, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Thanks. My question is, I hear a lot of concerns about the Saints receivers, but is this receiving corps, is it really a big drop-off from Lance Moore, Robert Meacham, and Devery Henderson? Thanks a lot. Now,
thank you, John.
To the answer.
It's early, but I would say right now they do like to look like it's a big drop-off to those guys.
Each one of those guys had that role, and they perfected that role. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. It took a couple years. You know, Devery was your 9-route guy, run down the field. Robert Meacham, as I said, was a clear-out guy, can obviously make some plays and reverses and those type of things. Colston, when healthy, when in the prime of his career, was the seam guy. Lance Moore might be the best route runner I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he ran the cleanest out route I've ever seen. And then you throw into the mix when they had Shockey, when they had playmakers in the backfield. Yes. I mean, yes, to answer his question, yes, it is that much of a drop-off right now.
Huge drop-off. And, you know, you hope that these guys are going to mature very quickly. I mean, you're rolling the dice on undrafted free agents in a lot of cases in a first-round draft pick. I mean, Coleman's an undrafted free agent. Colston is he's been here for a long time, probably the greatest receiver in Saints history, but an undrafted free. No, he was a seventh-round pick. And of course, Snead, undrafted free agent. So and Shantavius Jones and Joe Morgan. So it is.
You're right.
I mean,
you just listed them all. I'm just
guys.
Wow. Okay. Only two were draft picks, and one was a 7th round, one was a first round.
That's a drop off here, and the 7th rounder, he's getting a little bit long in the tooth. Father Time's calling. We got to mention it. Lack of dome field advantage, man. For a couple seasons, this team was invincible at home. Last year, little bit of a chink in the armor, and if they got to do one thing this season, they got a whole serve at home.
They have got to win at least 7 of their 8 games at home, if not the entire thing. I agree with Breeze. It was a different feel to the locker room last year, and I think that manifested itself in some of those games at home because when things got bad, you sensed the anxiety in the crowd. You kind of felt the quit. You felt I throw my hands up, it's over. This is a different group of guys. That's the one thing I like. The intangible is there. Is the talent there? We'll see, but they have to defend home field, especially in a game like this weekend against a very weak team in Tampa Bay. But this game, Saints-Tampa Bay, wherever you play them, is always crazy, weird. I mean, last year, they tried not to win and ended up winning the season finale. It's always a bizarre game.
Yeah, it is. And, you don't really want to make this an issue, but it may be an issue after this week. This team hasn't won yet. I mean, preseason, regular season, this group has not tasted victory yet. I mean, it's not even one of these things where you could have walked out during the preseason and said, you know what, we won that one. Again, the best showing maybe they had was against New England. They didn't win that game. So they need a win this week. They need to start feeling good about themselves and know that all the work they put in the offseason, everything they're doing, the ability to compete, that at the end of the day it's going to come out with a W. And, the hope is that, they'll see that this weekend because, winning can do wonders for just the psyche of a team.
And losing can do the exact opposite.
Agreed.
And it can get I'm in the locker room a lot, and I've been in some losing locker rooms. I've been in some winning locker rooms. Last year, the feel in that locker room was just so bad when you walked in. Some of that was the character of the players. Some of that was just the fact that losing combines itself to where you're always in this just down mood. And winning, it's everyone's joking, high-fiving, everyone's talking to the media. It's great. So I'm right there with you, and that's why you can't let this first quarter of the season slip away.
Tampa Bay and Jameis Winston, talk a little bit about them coming into town.
Well, first off, their receiving core is legit. Okay, and Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, who looks like he might play, Austin Seferi and Jenkins. There is no way, even if it's his first road start, that Jameis Winston is going to look that bad from week 1 to week 2. However, this is the game. They need to rattle the young fella as much as they can. Saints, pound for pound, man for man, are probably better than this team, and they're at home. I said that the fan base was pretty tame after the week 1 loss. If there's a week 2 loss, I don't think they're going to be as tame.
No, I would agree with you. And again, I think everybody's thinking, well, they're going to throw exotic blitzes at Jameis Winston. They're going to do like what we've seen, in the history of again, Buddy Ryan disciples. I want to caution people. Again, you might want to do that, but you're just as young on your defensive side and as raw as Jameis Winston is.
I went to ask a couple players. I said, rattling the rookie. I ended up asking Delvin Breaux and Damian Swann, and I walked up. I said, wait a second. I just asked 2 rookies about a rookie quarterback. I got to go, and I ended up getting some sound from Kenny Vaccaro as well. So it's like. Yeah, it's a rookie quarterback. But you got a lot of newcomers on that defense as well.
I don't know. You can play that card, but I don't think you're going to be out there saying we're going to try to confuse the young quarterback. Because at the same time, you got a lot of guys back there that might be a little bit confused as well.
No doubt about it.
Deborah's in Gentilly. Deborah, thanks for calling Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Deborah.
Yes, hi. Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I have a question. Concerned about the Saints coming this weekend to play the Bucs. Do you think they're going to win this game? I hope they do because, I noticed sometimes when the Saints play young quarterbacks, they lose to the game. So I would hang up and listen and see what you all say about the Saints. Hopefully they win Sunday and playing a young quarterback because even though he didn't play well with the Titans. I think he's going to show up this Sunday. And what do you think?
I do agree. And look, I think on paper, the Saints should win this game. I think they will win this game.
I think they better win this game.
No doubt. They have to win this game.
Look, Drew Brees put it out on the table. I mean, he straight up said, 0-2 is not an option. It is not an option. We have to find a way to win. I know one thing. I saw Drew at his press conference yesterday. You can tell he is dialed in right now. That sense of urgency is there. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this week at practice he was calling some people out just in terms of pick up the pace, this, that, whatever. But they cannot slip to 0-2.
Interesting you mentioned pace and tempo. And I was watching it, even when I saw the replay of the game, the tempo. Normally this team in, out the huddle, boom, boom, boom. Not this past, and it may be this year, it may not be a tempo offense. Trying to keep that defense off the field, you may see a more deliberate offense than what we see in the past where we're used to get them in out the huddle, move down the field very, very quickly, try to catch the defense off guard. By design this year, they may have to maybe slow it down a bit.
And, now that I think about it, when they cut the score from 14-3 to 14-10, the defense went on a stretch of 5 straight series where they didn't allow the Cardinals into the end zone. The rest helped them. They kind of let them regroup, let them relax, let them exhale, and all of a sudden they got some confidence again. So, yeah, there's going to be that kind of yin and yang as far as do I want to go fast, do I want ball control? It's all out on the table this year for the Saints. You just never know.
Well, even when they got the ball late and you're thinking, okay, Saints are going into that 4-minute offense.
Right.
They still were a little bit more deliberate than they normally would be. And so, again, that's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past.
No doubt.
And I know it's got to be different for Drew Brees, who's always had that, excellent at that up-tempo, calling the plays, getting things out. And a lot of it comes to trust with the receivers as well. And I know we've harped on it a lot, but these guys have got to step up if this team is going to be a successful team this season. Let's shift gears. LSU over Mississippi State, again, 21-19. I thought a great win for the Tigers. You're talking about Dak Prescott, who is, again, a Heisman Trophy candidate. You're talking about a hostile environment. You're talking about a quarterback with basically his first start. A lot of young players that needed to play and play well in that game. And I got to tell you right now, I walked away thinking that, you know what? This team, if they can get it together, this could be a dominant team this season.
I got to give Garland Gillen credit. He's the first one that said, I think LSU is going to surprise some people. And then I started looking at the schedule, and I looked at the rest of the schedule after the Mississippi State game, and I've been watching Auburn. I see South Carolina lose, and I'm thinking, maybe he's on to something here. This could be a special season. But it's funny. I felt good about that win, but my initial reaction, I even put it out there on Twitter, was such a Les Miles win.
Yeah.
Felt like you should have had a little bit more.
Right.
A lot of mistakes, a lot of just kookiness and weirdness, and all of a sudden they get a little luck at the end with a delay of game and a missed field goal. It's like somehow, some way, it always manages to work itself out. Now, I'll say this. You got a Ferrari, you want to ride it.
Yes.
Leonard Fournette. I don't know if 30 carries a game in the SEC is going to work. So we'll see how that goes. But at some point, Brandon Harris is going to make some plays. And I thought he played well. I thought he played well.
Sean, they're going to showcase Leonard Fournette. He is Superman.
No doubt.
And they should.
They
also would love to have a Heisman Trophy winner at LSU again. Okay, so they're going to give him every opportunity to be able to carry the rock or to have it in his hands, as they should. He's the best in a lot of cases, the best player on the field. But I was impressed with Brandon Harris, and I would like to see Brandon Harris a little bit more on the edge. Again, especially college teams, pro teams, if you got a quarterback that has the ability to scramble, that still has a rocket arm like he does, get him on the edge, let him go through his progressions. 1, 2, if it's not there, take off. It's almost an automatic first down because of his athleticism. This is not the 188-pound kid we saw last year. This kid's put on 20 pounds of muscle.
And we've been doing some interviews with him, and you listen to him talk, he's getting it. I know the thing last year was a little bit immature. I think he's kind of got it. Not immature in a bad way. Immature just, I'm an 18-year-old kid.
Yes.
You can tell he's kind of picked himself up. And I'm glad you mentioned his athletic ability because he was a smart runner as far as I'm concerned. He ran where there was space and got down or got out of bounds. We talk a lot about Ohio State's quarterbacks. The truth of the matter is 2 of those guys got injured. Running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
They can get injured. Notre Dame, Zaire, Malik Zaire, out for the season.
Right.
You got to be smart when you run the ball. He's very smart. And that ball is hot off his hand.
Yes.
He's really got some arm talent, and I think he's in the midst of becoming a special player. But right now, give the ball to number 7. He can play some football.
I agree, but you know what? I was impressed with his poise.
I
thought he had real poise, for a guy that all off season long, second guessed by guys like me, guys like you in the media, fans second guessing his ability to be able to get the playbook. Remember, everybody's saying it's between the ears with this guy. Well, you know what? from what I understand, from listening to Tom Luganbill, who was the sideline reporter, the guy didn't know what an over and under was.
Right.
I mean, most guys, if you're playing bantamweight football, you know what that is. So, I mean, again, literally, he was basically playing his high school career off his talent, and maybe needed a year to kind of learn how to run an offense in the SEC.
And he also needed a year in the weight room. That was clear.
No doubt.
Physically, he looks like a different player. It's the first time we really got to see a full game with that arm strength that worked. So, and he looked confused. He looked in command. He looked poised. All good things for Brandon Harris, and I think ultimately LSU made the right choice in starting him.
Yep, and look, again, going forward, obviously, the more time he gets, he's going to get better and better. And look, that offensive line, it might be the best in the country. They are just really good. Now, they had some bonehead. No, if you look at, again, this could have been out of reach if you don't have some youthful mistakes. That's going to come with, again, playing as many young players as they're playing.
You're probably talking about Clapp, the redshirt freshman. It was a tough one. And a couple other plays. But I think overall, you got to walk away feeling like, okay, this may be something here.
Right. Les Miles denied it. Brandon Harris talked about it. My source tells me, again, this happened. Everybody was all over Miles because they thought it was a conservative game plan. But, again, they threw the ball 14 times. My source tells me he checked out of passing plays 15 times. I think one of the articles in the paper said it was somewhere between 7 to 8 times. Of course, Miles kind of downplayed it. But first of all, it shows the maturity of the young quarterback to check out of those plays, but also shows you they were willing to let him throw the football. It just wasn't in the cards for them to do it at that time.
Yeah, I mean, if he's checking out of plays and those plays worked, kudos to him. Now, I don't have the all 22 with the college, so I couldn't really tell. And I don't have a chance to watch as much film on LSU as I do with the Saints. But whatever he was doing, it worked. I mean, so it wasn't like the plays that he was checking to were horrible plays. So Les Miles is always going to play coy when it comes to stuff like that. So it could have been 7, it could have been 10, it could have been 15. Either way, the bottom line is, was the offense effective? And for the most part, they were.
Yeah. On defense, boy, I tell you what, they got some young studs. First of all, we know Beckwith and Godchow are studs, but you got to love the way Arden Key played. Kevin Tolliver played. I mean, Tolliver looks like
an NFL prospect right now.
Are you kidding me? I mean, really does. I mean, again, just came to LSU ready to go, honestly. So, I mean, again, a lot of enthusiasm on the part of where the Tigers are playing right now. This is a big game against Auburn, but you got to be glad you're getting them at home. And even without that warm-up game now, again, and that could end up hurting them down the line in terms of maybe going after that national championship. But right now they look like one of the better teams in the country. They win this week, they're in the top 10.
And all of a sudden, Auburn doesn't look as scary, right?
Yes, agreed.
Alabama, if there's such thing as a down year in Alabama, this looks like it could possibly be it with their quarterback issue. Now, the only team that kind of worries you right now is Ole Miss, right?
Yes.
Ole Miss looks like they could put up 100 right now. I mean, it looks like a basketball team on the football field. But the SEC West is very winnable. You have a quarterback gaining confidence. And as far as I'm concerned, we have the best player in America in Leonard Fournette right now. So we'll see.
Enjoy every second of it.
Do it.
I'm telling you, he'll only be here 3 years.
That's it.
And he's going to be in a pro uniform. Enjoy watching this guy play.
No doubt about it.
He's a once-in-a-generation player.
No doubt about it.
Sean Fazende, Fox 8 Sports, thanks so much for being with us here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this show each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also on the Pelican Sports Television Network in the New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and Lafayette markets at 9 p.m. on Friday nights. You can catch me on the radio, 990 a.m. WGSO, 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. And, of course, you can listen on the TuneIn Radio app. You can also check us out at ericasher.com. And don't forget, brand new show each and every Monday night. Yours truly and Saints Hall of Famer Tyrone Hughes live at Legacy Kitchen at 7 to 8, live on WGSO Radio. We invite you to come on out. We have Saints players. They got great drink specials, food specials for you. That's every Monday night, 7 to 8 at Legacy Kitchen, 700 Chapatoulas at Girard. Also, again, special thanks to our guest, Sean Fazende. Also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Donovan Joseph, Philip Williamson, Kenny Juno, and my director, William Hill. For Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll see you right back here next Thursday night. Have a great evening.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.